On Tuesday, the former president announced that he would seek another term as president of the United States. Very few presidents in American history have been successful in serving two non-consecutive terms as president, but President Trump hopes to be one of them. Joining me now to discuss that, what he makes of the midterm elections, as well as the latest between Russia and Ukraine, is the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and the former national security advisor to President Trump, John Bolton. Thanks so much for making the time, Ambassador. Great to be with you. Let's just start out with, what do you make of the announcement on Tuesday by the former president?
Well, I was surprised that he announced so early. I think it was a mistake on his part, because I think it reminded everybody of his responsibility in many different ways for the underwhelming results of the campaign from the Republican Party's point of view. He may have been motivated by a desire to provide protection against possible indictment by the Department of Justice, although simply declaring his candidacy won't do that. I think he's losing support among Republicans and has been since the end of his term. And I think there's a large number of people on the Republican side ready to declare their own candidacies for the presidency. So every prospect is it'll be a very contested race for the nomination.
And you served this president in numerous capacities. I want to ask you a question surrounding the midterm elections. You know, you have candidates like Kari Lake as an example, who ran for governor in the state of Arizona, who has still not conceded the race to Katie Hobbs, the candidate for the Democrats who ended up winning in Arizona. What do you make of the fact that the former president and some of his closest allies are still, spouting these election fraud claims that really have no evidence?
Well, as a general proposition across the country, I think Trump-supported candidates did not do well. And my own polling has shown that while a Trump endorsement may be very helpful to a candidate in the primary to get a Republican nomination, it turns out to be harmful in the general election. So it's certainly true that a few candidates he endorsed won, but many of them in what were really contested elections lost. But I also think it's significant that really, as of now, there have been very few claims that elections were stolen, or even very few contested elections. And I think that's important to help remind Americans what a normal election without Donald Trump looks like. We still have the case of Arizona that remains to be seen what will happen out there. But as of now, even if Kari Lake contested the election, that would really be the exception rather than the rule. So I think that's a very positive thing to help restore confidence in the American electoral system for most voters.
And, from what you know about the former president, when you would speak with the former president who is now running for another term, to what degree was his announcement on Tuesday shocking to you? And I mean, if he were to get another term in the Oval Office, what would that mean, not just for the country, but for the Republican Party?
Well, he's taken the initial steps to be a candidate. He has not yet filed his personal financial disclosure. That's not really due until May and could be extended. But that's the real test of whether he's seriously running. I don't think he will be elected, even if he got the Republican nomination, which I doubt. I think he would lose very badly in 2024. I think it would be a big harm to the Republican Party and other candidates running for the House and the Senate and other offices. But if he did get elected in 2024, I think it would be harmful to the United States. I don't think Donald Trump really thinks in policy or philosophical terms, as that is conventionally understood. He doesn't make policy-oriented decisions. He makes decisions based on how he sees the effect of that decision through the prism of whether it benefits Donald Trump. So I think it would be harmful to us internationally in a wide variety of contexts.
And I do want to ask you about another relevant issue, Russia and Ukraine, a war that has been ongoing now for really many months. Obviously, Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin are two very relevant figures in, the war in Ukraine. What do you make as to how the current White House, President Biden, and his administration have supported Ukraine, and what else can be done in order to support Ukraine, whether that be financially, etc.?
Well, I think we have supplied considerable military assistance, considerable intelligence, obviously political support. I think it's often been late and insufficient, but it's been there, and it's had a considerable impact on the Ukrainians' ability to withstand the Russian invasion. I do think we should understand, though, that we failed on February the 24th by not deterring the invasion to begin with. That's the real outcome, not to win the war, but to prevent the war in the first place. I think the Ukrainians now are determined to get territorial integrity restored to their country. I don't see them compromising on that point. But on the other hand, I don't see Vladimir Putin and the Russians backing down either. So unfortunately, the default position as of now is that this continues well into the winter and maybe longer, which is extraordinarily unfortunate for Ukraine in particular, but for peace and security in Europe as a whole, which is a vital American national interest.
And I know you have to go, but I just want to ask you one last short question. I mean, to what extent are you worried about the current political state, not just of the United States, but of the entire world, really? And what can be done to help reduce some of that divisiveness, polarization that's currently taking place in, again, not just American politics, but kind of in the world politics thing?
Well, I think the most important thing is to restore stability in American politics. I think Donald Trump was an aberration. I don't think he reflects any trend or any threat to democracy. I think that kind of rhetoric is overdone. But I think when the political system is finally done with Donald Trump, we will be in a lot better shape as a country. And I think that will allow us to exercise clearer leadership internationally, which will have its own stabilizing effect around the world.
Okay, Ambassador John Bolton, Ambassador, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Okay, glad to do it. Glad to be with you.